Hello, real quick one today because I'm tired and I want to stop doing this. Semillon, that's a grape that not many people are drinking by itself at the moment. You'll see it used a lot in blends with Chardonnay. Um, it's huge in France. It's the third most planted grape in France. They use it in a lot of the dessert wines, and it's a grape that at one point it was the most planted grape in the world. It was over 90% of all the plantings in South Africa. It was over 75% of all the plantings in Chile. And we're talking 1880 through to 1930s, as late as the 1950s. Some people mistook it for Riesling, so there might have been even more. But much maligned since then, as if you can't do Semillon on the cheap. You can't mass produce it because it is low acid. You need a lot of concentration to make a really good wine, so you need your yields nice and low. So if you're looking high yield mass production stuff, it's not going to be any good, and you'll tear it up and use Sauvignon or Pinot or whatever, something that is going to be more commercially viable for what you're using. So lots of people haven't tried really good Semillon. Now I have not gone with a French Semillon because I prefer Australian typically. Australian Semillon is something that has been really growing and climbing kind of the awareness of wine drinkers in the last 10 or 15 years. It's very popular with winemakers. If you follow Australian wine, you'll be aware of the name Peter Lehman. Now his wife Margaret was so much a fan of Semillon, he named his Semillon after her, the Margaret. Which is, if you get a chance to try it, is magnificent. Aged in the winery for 5 years from vintage before it's even released. It's a fabulous wine. But the one I'm doing today is the Mount Horrocks. Now that's from Clare Valley in Australia, so that's just north of Adelaide in the Mount Lofty mountain ranges, which is an imaginative name for something that's tall. Now, made by a lady called Stephanie Toole. I'm going to check that. No, it's not Teal. No, it is Stephanie Toole. She is the owner and winemaker of the estate. She bought it back in 1993 and has been making wines out of there since 1998. I was convinced of that 30 seconds ago. I'm not sure anymore. Take my word for it. She only makes 7 wines, and she only makes 3,500 cases of wine a year. For example, the 2017 Mount Horrocks, I believe they made 380 cases. That's it. That's all they made. It's completely organic, completely first band certified organic winemaking and winery and vineyard. And Stephanie believes that the best possible grapes need to be maintained in order to make the best possible product. Now, as I've gone over in a couple of my pieces up to now, there is absolutely no empirical evidence to say that's correct, which is frustrating, but you know, the proof is in the pudding. Now, Mount Horrocks has won awards left, right and centre. They've maintained their 5-star review in James Halliday's Wines of Australia for years on the bounce. They've won Decanter awards, they've won IWC awards, they've won trophies. Their wine was used at the 80th birthday celebration of the Queen Elizabeth II, but at the Lord Mayor's luncheon. I mean, that's pretty good. And the thing is, that is less than 15 quid. Bonkers. Absolutely insane. You can get it from a variety of different sources, but I paid less than 15 quid for it, and it's absolutely stunning. I will be getting some more. Now, Semillon is an interesting wee beastie. Stylistically, low acid, fairly high body. So imagine the body of like a Viognier or a Chardonnay, but more of a taste profile linked in with, say, Sauvignon or Pinot Gris. Okay, so it's really accessible to loads of people. What sets Semillon aside is a real oiliness, or what more often termed waxiness, in terms of texture on the wine itself. Now, the grape will go from cool climate to warm climate fairly comfortably. It will suit a range of different soils. It's not too tricky to grow. It is very thin-skinned, so it gets sunburnt easily. Grapes can get sunburnt. And it's very susceptible to botrytis cinerea, which is noble rot, which they use in French dessert wine, but strangely proof against a lot of other diseases. So it's a handy grape. You can see why it was really widely planted. Now, the best examples will give you a whole gamut of flavours all the way through from sort of lemon rind and zest, and pear and green apples, all the way through to papaya and mango and lemon curd, and some of them will show you sort of vanilla and soft spice like Viognier. They take really well to oak aging and barrel, so you'll get that sort of creaminess, that malolactic fermentation, MLF, that roundness on the palate, that buttery, toasty, oaky, woody flavours. It will take all of that on and sort of run with that. They age very, very well. Now, Laithwaite's used to do a Mangan Estate 2008 Semillon. I think I had it my WSET level 3 tasting, and it was so waxy, it was like chewing on a candle, but with all that glorious flavour. It was just phenomenal. So Mangan Estate, Mangan, keep an eye out for that. About 11 quid, but really, really good. Now this is it. You can always tell a Semillon. You can always. It's really difficult to describe the aroma of a Semillon, but you can almost smell that waxiness. It's referred to sometimes as lanolin or lanolin, which is essentially wool grease or sweat that is secreted by the sebaceous gland of any wool-bearing animal. Delicious. But it's got that kind of mustiness and that muskiness to it. Now on the nose, it's sort of vanilla straight away, and it's like a lovely balance between sweet and tart. So you've got kind of lemon curd and green apple, sort of beautifully balanced on the palate, but it's got a weight to it, which is phenomenal. Okay, so those overriding aromas tend to go through on the palate. So lots of green apple, but you get a lot of kind of soft, rounded pear. When a pear's slightly overripe, and you get it's kind of mushy, but you've still got that gritty kind of feeling to the flesh. But you get real kind of rounded vanilla, and there's a little bit of kind of green papaya. There's nothing as sweet as mango, but there's definitely sweetness in there that has been restrained by a lot of green apple sort of skin and lemon zest and candied lemon and lemon curd, and it's just phenomenal. It really is. It's just an awesome wine. It's definitely something that a lot more people need to try. It's tricky because, as I say, you'll see it blended with Chardonnay a lot from Australia, and in dessert wine. And Australia, if you're going to pick two wines that are going to split a room, Aussie Chardonnay and dessert wine, half your audience are just like, no, I'm not trying that. But you should, because as I say, imagine all the weight and depth and complexity of Chardonnay and Viognier, and then the flavour profile closer to a Sauvignon or a Pinot Gris. But they're fabulous. You can get, if really cool climate ones will start to show a lot of flower and sort of herb aromas and flavours, and then the hotter you go, obviously the sweeter the fruit gets, the fruit flavours, on all the way through to pineapple and mango and papaya and all the tropical stuff. So generally speaking, the hotter the place, the sweeter the fruit. Doesn't always hold true, but it is fairly reliable. So that is Mount Horrocks, Clare Valley. Just briefly, really tiny region. I think it's 22 kilometres long and 7 kilometres wide. That's it. But very definitely worth looking out for their Rieslings. Clare Valley Riesling, internationally renowned, and Mount Horrocks do too. So they do two Rieslings, this Semillon, a Rosé, a Cab Sauv, a Shiraz, and a Nero d'Avola. That's it, just 7 wines. All of them are worth looking out for. They're all going to be as economical as under 15 quid, but if you're looking bang for your buck, you want a wine that you can really, because it will take me a long time to get through that, because it's so complex, and my good lady's going to help me, and we'll discuss it, and then we'll stop being boring and watch Narcos or whatever. But yeah, it's worth a shot. Give it a go. Find a Semillon. If you do want to have a quick look around the supermarkets for one that isn't going to cost you quite as much, I would never recommend spending less than about £10 on a decent Semillon, because you're just going to be left disappointed. And if you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all. Peace.